Welcome back to the Flex Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike T. Nelson. On this podcast, we talk about all things to increase performance, muscle, and improve body composition, all without destroying your health in a flexible framework. Today, we have a treat for you. We have a call that was originally a bonus call for everyone who picked up the Triphasic 2 book that I co-wrote with my good buddy Coach Cal Dietz here at the University of Minnesota from February. But I wanted to release this to everyone because there's just a ton of really good information in here. And yes, of course, I would love for you to pick up the Triphasic Training 2 book, which is out now with myself and Coach Cal Dietz. So in this podcast here now, this originally was done as a Zoom call, so we'll have the video up on YouTube also, because we do make a couple references to some things you might want to see in video a little bit better. We talk about the book, some results from it, demonstrate the impact of a water bag. You're probably like, what the hell is that? But I have used this with online clients when needed, and it's been super, super helpful. Everything from footwear and its impact upon performance, combining drills for optimum results, pain, improving movement, reducing pain, starting point, how to do triphasic loading for powerlifters, cluster training, modifications for cross-country runners, eustress versus distress training, and a ton more. So Cal's just a wealth of awesome information. And I think you will get a lot out of this call, which is now a podcast. And if you want more on that, you can sign up to the Triphasic Training 2 newsletter. You can just go to www.triphasic2, that's the number 2.com. So triphasic, the number 2.com. And when you're on that page, you will be able to pick up the new Triphasic Training 2 physical book. And there'll be a little pop-up there. You can hop on to the newsletter. We'll give you something very cool for free. So check that out there. I think you'll really enjoy the book. It was definitely a labor of love. Took about 9 years to get it done. Various stops and starts and redoing things. And then Cal had more new stuff and finding out ways to explain it. And our goal with the Triphasic Training 2 book is we've got many new methods for training primarily more athletes, but we have used this, some of the thoughts for body composition, and it's set up to augment your training or even start from scratch. We start all the way from what do you do for a proper warm-up, all the way through training, how to transfer and get the most effect for your athletes on the field, not just in the weight room. And we even talk a ton about the aerobic system in this book. Probably like 30% of the book is actually dedicated to different aerobic training methods. Because what Cal figured out many years ago, and I ran into the same thing, is even if you are training for only strength and power, at some point, if your aerobic system is not well developed, it is going to limit your ability to do high quality work to develop the other end of the physical spectrum. So again, while the book is not geared to endurance athletes, the aerobic system and the endurance part of the equation is still super important. But again, there's specific ways of which and how you would do that. So check that out and enjoy this conversation with my good buddy, Coach Cal Dietz. If you're looking for electrolytes, check out my friends below at LMNT. I'm drinking the grapefruit one today, which is one of my new favorites. They also have a lemon flavor, which I haven't tried yet, but I'm super stoked to try it next month. But I've heard really good reports about that. If you're looking for ketones, check out my friends at Tecton Ketone Esters. Ketones are another fuel source that your body and brain can use. There's no caffeine or anything like that. Again, not that I am against caffeine, but sometimes you have to do a little more cognitive work. It's later in the day. I've used this a fair amount with clients and consults I've done for our nurses and docs and a lot of people who have to do shift work. They may have 3 or 4 hours of their shift to go yet. However, they have to go back home and sleep. So they don't really want to use anything that's a stimulant that's going to keep them up and further impair their sleep. So Tecton has been great for them. So check them out below. Use the code Dr. Mike, save you some money. I am an advisor to them and an ambassador in full disclosure. So here you go. Enjoy this Q&A call with my good buddy, Coach Cal.
Well, there's the man himself, Mr. Cal.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I just had to shut the background noise down a little bit where we were in the weight room. So anyway, well, hope you guys enjoyed reading, finishing through the book. I know some people were telling me they're reading it twice now. I was like, I hope it wasn't that confusing. Hopefully it's just because there's good information in there. And because Mike did a good job of unconfusing what appears to be confusing, to say the least. So anyway, and we can get into some questions that people ask me via other stuff, but would anybody want to kick this off in regards to some questions that they may have, some clarifications, whether it may be, or maybe even things that they put in their training system because of this? Anybody? Oh. Hey, Cal, can you hear me? Brad? Yeah. Okay, Brad.
Hey, quick question for you. Do you have any application or can you describe some of the stuff you use the water bags for?
Yeah. So the water bags, and I don't use them a whole lot, to be honest with you. Here's what transpired when I found the water bags is and really it's just, I use it for pregame and I use it before the training session. And really what it was, was essentially turning on the lateral sling and the spiral sling. And it was pretty, I can't remember when did we put it all in the book, but did I describe the story in the book of the water bag turning on the slings? I don't think I did. No, because I actually have that rope for something else. I'm sorry. Look, I have a lot of things, right? So I can't exactly. So guys, here's what happened. I had a female athlete who's had a broken foot for 3 years. And she refused she didn't refuse, but she chose not to get surgery because she's a goalie. And then that would miss her next opportunity to make a national camp. So with that being said, she just kept, and we managed it, right? So, but a lot, like in the third year, what was happening a lot was that her sling would shut off. So her glute med and her TFL were shutting off. And those two muscles run up and down those slings that I'm talking about. And I'm going to actually maybe have a slide here for you, because this is pretty scary with the water bags, what it did. So I think, Jody, can I share my screen? I don't know if you know how to disable it, Jody, or let me share my screen.
Yeah, give me just a second. Let me see if I can do that.
No worries. I appreciate it. Because I don't know how to do that from your end, if you're the administrator. So, but the point is and I have data on this, it's pretty profound. And so her muscles would be shut off because she has some pain and a broken bone. And we'd do RPR and we would turn it on. And we knew it could stabilize for a bit. Well, something Chris Corfus said to me years ago about the water bag, how it changed guys' running form at times because they had weak links or issues. So yeah. And then I just got that. So this is pretty terrifying. I'm going to share this right now. And you can see here, so this was the athlete, and this is a 1080 when she runs. So you can see her acceleration wasn't bad. She was getting more acceleration. But then here's where the left foot problem would be. Let's see. Left, right, left, yes. So we always start on our left foot when we do this, so that then when we go back and look at things. So her left foot problem, you can see right here compared to her right foot, you can see all the way through, this was her left foot. Okay. The difference is huge. And this is through a certain power zone. And then when she got the top speed, it was a little bit less, but again, there's a little bit less force at top speed. So the point is she had these problems. This is a 1080. And then here's where the water bag came in. So I had her just run a 10-meter water bag run. And look what happened after that. We're talking 1 minute later, you can see what disappeared, the deficits, because the spiral sling and the lateral sling actually turned on. And so the water bag, to me, when I use it, is a profound activation. Even when I still like the broken bone in the foot and the pain did not go away. But just by holding a water bag with the instability and being unstable, the brain goes, I have to activate every muscle. I'm going to override any compensations. I'm going to override any pain I have, because this is a dangerous thing for me because it's so unstable, and I'm going to activate all my muscles. And when so legitimately ran, got a number, did the water bag, 10-meter run, 20, whatever it is. It can be a skip. It can be backward run. It doesn't matter. She ran this and then bam, it's fixed. So, and folks, I'm not kidding. I literally went back and turned the muscles on. So I might have that test. Yeah, here's the test. And when you can say this, and actually, so there's a glute med test right there. So all I do is with the glute med, when they do it, I just lay her down, and this is a strength test, and I just pull in and check the glute med. And you can see if it's on or off. Okay. And then the next test we'll do is the TFL. So the little muscle up here, instantly rotate, and you're about 30 degrees up, and you're trying to push to the midline of the body onto the table. So these would always fail when she did this test, when we did this test with her. So right here, you can see she failed. And she came back, we tested the muscle, tested the 1080, and it was profound. So how I do the water bag isn't in my training unless I know there's rehab. So I would believe this would be unbelievable for rehab. I'm not going to kid you. But in my opinion, and I just went to an NBA team, showed them this. Now they're adding this into their warm up on the court. The guys go do something, whatever they normally do, and then they grab a water bag and run 20 meters with it, holding it. That's it. You can put it above your head. You can hold it in your chest. Does not matter. I got the same results. Maybe I'll get more results something else. I just didn't test it. But the point is one run and the water bag turned the entire sling system on. And when I say a lateral sling, like here's the lateral sling. So the lateral sling will go from the arch all the way up. It'll go all the way up to in through the inside hamstring, over here to the glute medius, and then over to the QL, and then up to the other side. And the spiral sling, 1 second, maybe I have to get out. The spiral sling is this one. It'll run from the tibialis, in my opinion, and these other muscles, but runs right to the TFL, and then the lower transverse abdominis. So anytime I've found that the TFL is off and not stabilizing, the lower transverse abdominis, when I say lower, I'm talking the belly button to the hip bone right here. That muscle's off, and I muscle test it, which goes up to the shoulder. So this is how I use a water bag. And it's really the only time I use it is to activate it takes 3 seconds to 5 to run 20 meters at a jog, at a slight sprint to turn this thing on. So what I'm going to do though, is I got a bunch of information on here. So when I say this, like this lateral sling, the RPR spots to fix it are listed right here. But if you have a soft tissue person to fix this problem in your athletes, like here's all the muscles that I have the massage therapist do on my athletes when they go to a massage therapist and I know they have a sling. Because there's times where I keep turning the sling on and it doesn't necessarily stay on because we got a problem somewhere. And then when the massage therapist goes through some of these muscles, and some of these are tough to get to in the lower shank, it's pretty profound, the results. Now, obviously, I'm an owner of RPR, and I want people to understand RPR works. And if I need to get a kid really turned on that day for a game or practice or performance, I can. But a massage therapy session is even better than RPR because it seems to last longer. But be aware, if you do this on game day, it may shut it down for a few hours, the massage, where RPR is not as abrasive and it turns it on. And this is what I've tested. And then the other one would be the spiral sling fixes. So right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in the chat, this slide presentation for people. So I would get that late. And then there it goes. I put it in there, and feel free to share that with people. So Mike, the question was, how do I use water bag in training? So I think I just covered it there. Good to see you back, Mike. I'm glad you're not going to get caught up with the passport. People might have to run the passport. Yeah. Anyway, but enough of that. But your thoughts on water bag training, Michael?
Yeah, since we talked about it, I started having my online clients do it, and similar when I told them to do RPR or told them to do the goat trail, they're like, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I'm like, "No, just literally go try this as part of your warm up." And so far, when they've done it, it seems to work really well.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough. And the nice part is, like you probably said, you don't need a lot of observation. It's pretty simple in execution to do. Sometimes trying to explain RPR can be a little bit more intensive, but it's an execution very simple. And so far, I've found it to work quite well.
Yeah. And then Mike, the other thing, I wanted to make a note. I put the screen back up here on this, the craziness of the differences from 1 minute apart. But the water bag does this, but what also does it, and this is why where I said, hey, the water bag, the brain thinks it's unstable. So it turns the survival mechanism on and overrides compensation patterns. The other thing that does it was overspeed towing. So I actually had this female with that broken foot do overspeed training, and literally, and even her psoas, I remember the day I did the overspeed with it, just to experiment. Her psoas wasn't working very well. She'd done a ton of workouts. So it was fatigued, and rightly so. I think it was at the end of the week. And which isn't shocking that the psoas is like off at the end of the week, right? Because she's stressed, a lot of things, working hard, sometimes 3 workouts a day. And lo and behold, every muscle literally lit up. Even muscles that were off for a long period of time in people. So the next few weeks I spent I would test muscle tests like you saw people, high speed pull in 1 rep. And when they came back, because I assume the brain goes, look, to survive this and not fall and break something, I have to turn everything on. So I know that the water bag, now, for whatever reason, I'm not sure that like a Bosu ball or something under the foot actually turns things on. I think it can in some people, but I tested it, but it doesn't turn on to the magnitude that the water bag or overspeed running. And that's just something for people to realize. Anyway, I spent 10 minutes on that. So maybe I shouldn't spend that long, but anyway, there's a lot of insight there.
Well, we had a quick question on that. Any particular weight or any parameters for the water bag, Cal?
Yeah, no, I just get the normal water bag, and it could be a slush pipe, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But right around, yeah. And I think, honestly, I think I measured mine were about 20 pounds. So, but there's no magic. If you fill something up too much, it might not slush enough, right? And then if it's too light, it might not cause the brain to go, oh, it's a little light. So I think anywhere, honestly, between 15 to 20 to 25 pounds, as long as it slushes, it's stable, causes instability. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And then I go back to that upper body stuff we deal with unstable objects all the time. But unless you are playing golf during an earthquake or something like that, like the lower ground doesn't move as much. That might be just how we're wired specificity wise, that those things seem to work better than trying to make everything unstable below yourself.
Yeah. Well, other thing too, Mike, I know Dan Victor and Chris both experimented many times with just running beside, like get 2 or 3 bands tied together and have the athlete run, and it would turn muscles on. So they're pulling literally right beside them parallel. So the athlete's going straight up. The band tension's pulling like we talked about in the book with the 1080, right? But the band tension, and they run along the side, and it literally lights up some of these slings and muscles that aren't working for the athlete. And then the athlete goes run, and they saw it. So it's pretty, yeah. So it's really, like you said, the ground, I think, stable, but then there's some other force imposing a force on. So,
yeah. And real quick, I've used more often lately one side, just moderately light suitcase deadlifts for in between sets for like 100 feet back and forth. And because you have to reflexively stabilize the other side as you're moving, that seems to work pretty good too for probably someone.
Yeah, I wondered if you could. Wonder if I could do a suitcase on one side and hold above with a water bag on the other, and or I'm sure if some of this is safe to do. Like I'm 100%. Like you can't do overspeed training with your eyes closed, right? I just right. But if you could, that would make doing stuff with your eyes closed, I think, could enhance a lot of variables in this, because the brain goes, "Oh, this is not good." Like the brain goes, "I don't care you want to close your eyes, but I got to survive," right? Like,
Yeah. And I think you probably said the overspeed training, you're talking single percents, right? You're not talking
1%. Yeah. Well, I'm just whatever 100% is, right? Then I'm pulling them. I'm pulling just a little 2% above it.
Yeah,
But you know what?
Barely overspeed.
Yeah, barely overspeed. It's not 10%. No.
Yeah.
But you know what? That brings a point. I think I'm going to go test as soon as the off season comes. Right. I'm in season now. I hate in season because I can't do anything, but we're playing games and it's fun, right? But the off season, I'm going to test like 80% effort, but have it pull him maybe over speed, but it's only 80%, and see if I can get the same response. All right. I'm going to write that down so that we can test that, put that on the list, because I got a bunch of experiments to do this off season. So.
All right, guys, one more piggyback off that. You guys do, you said there'd be pretty good, big implications for rehab at Cal, probably on ACLs, I'm guessing.
Oh, well,
or anything like that with the water bags.
Look, I'm going to tell you, I haven't seen them not turn in all my return to place. Yes, I haven't had an ACL since I started doing those. Not because of that. Hockey doesn't have a whole lot, to be honest with you. If they are, it's a contact. It's not. And we're blessed. But when I have a return to play, like even a big quad contusion, and they have pain, it still turns those slings on. And I thought it turned the quad on because I got a better response, but the quad still wasn't responding very well because of the absolute pain involved in that. So you're talking about a 90-mile-an-hour puck that the pad didn't cover and hit the quad. So that hurt. And those are really hard rubber, right? So it's not like getting hit by a 90-mile baseball. This is worse. So anyway, but in all return to place, when they can start to run, I would add it, because, and again, I'll do it in the beginning of the rehab, because I feel that all these things need to be turned on so that you're not ingraining bad rehab patterns. And that's what I'm telling, like I'm going through physical therapy right now, and I just do some check-ins with my PT, but I'm trying to explain to her how the bad patterns right now exist, and I got to clear them before I do some rehab, because we need to get those. And I showed her, I walked in, I didn't do any RPR. I didn't do anything. And we did a couple sets. I said, no, watch this. And I RPR'd, and then the next exercise, I did it in same effort. She's like, oh, I see the difference. And I'm like, because I think I just cleared the bad patterns. So anyway, so it has to be done before you start rehab, in my opinion.
Another question then, if it's been done with an aging population. The oldest person I've used it with is early 60s. Active guy, again, seemed to help. But the nice part is you can equate it to wherever they're at. So it's very easy to scale also, which makes it nice.
My one thought on it, Mike, and I assume you would agree with me, is if your client, I think then if you had the water bag aging, you might want to get more than one rep in. Like you could do it throughout the workout.
3 to 5 times.
Yeah. And even while they're waiting, just walk or carry or skip this with this, right? And then, but here's the problem. If they have the big soft shoes, I don't think it's going to work.
No.
You know how old people have those big soft shoes?
Yes.
Do you have a mic yet? No, I'm teasing. Anyway. No, I'm teasing. No.
Next year, maybe.
Yeah, right. I wish you were older than me. That could really get on you, but you're not. So anyway, but those big soft shoes of the client, I think they have to, I don't think the soft shoe is actually going to help turn that on. So
no, I've seen those are probably the worst thing, that and flip-flops. Like if you want to destroy gait patterns pretty fast, I don't know what you've seen, Cal, but that's been my experience where those just, because I had a couple of clients online that had beaten my head against the wall, could not figure out what's going on. Finally, I'm like, send me a picture of your shoes. And I'm like, holy crap, what the hell are those things? And I'm like, get rid of those. And as soon as they did, everything cleaned up.
Well, the only thing that's touching the earth is our feet when we walk, and there's all this feedback coming in. And when the feedback's bad. Well, the other thing about flip flops is that you're instead of the big toe, the toe actually can't grab the ground normal. So your big toe is supposed to squeeze. You actually keep that from squeezing and activating your glutes. And that big toe holds the flip flop on when you walk. So the only really good sandal possibly would be is one that has a heel strap so your toe can still function. Am I right with that, Mike?
Yeah. And if people do consulting, like this is probably like the easiest thing to make all your money back instantly is walk into a facility. And if you see any athletes walking around in flip flops, like just get them to change them out.
Yeah. And we're talking, I've had one of my athletes who had a great toe glute system, like glute for monsters, but literally goes on vacation for a week, comes back and it's shut off. No, even if I didn't do anything, would he have turned on? Most likely within a couple of days, but still just drop the flip flops, please.
Yeah. Quick story. I had a client, had a bunch of pain, could not figure out what was different, went through everything. Finally, he's like, yeah, I started wearing flip flops. I'm like, okay, don't wear them the next 2 days. He stopped wearing them. All of his pain cleared up. He's like, I don't believe you. So he started wearing them again. Literally within a day, all his pain showed up again. I'm like, yep, I would not wear those.
And he was at his tipping point, right? It's crazy.
We'd done everything else. And it's probably like his system was ready to make a change, but that was probably his main rate limiter too. So
yeah.
Cool. Who is next? You can do the little raise your hand thing. I think we should be able to see that. I think maybe it's not working. Or unmute yourself and talk, or put a thing in the chat. Either way,
Mike,
it works.
I'm gonna jump in again if nobody else is asking questions. Would you stack that with the goat drill if you had like this 5 pounds or 5 pounds of water or something like that, and stack it with the goat drill, or no? Yay, no. What do you think?
I'll give you my thoughts. I'm curious what Cal thinks. So what I did with a few athletes recently is I had them start with RPR. I had them do 2 to 5 runs with the water bag, and then had them do 2 reps of the goat drill. I don't know what your thoughts are, Cal. And the downside is I can't watch a lot of their gait patterns really good. So my assumption is they're probably bad.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So what I'll do, so here's how my workout goes. Basically, we walk in, we don't do a dynamic warm up. We do RPR. We walk over, and here's how I pair them together. You're going to like this. So I think this is in our extra PDF, but the first rep of goat drill is done with the water bag.
Nice.
So I killed 2 birds with one stone. So instead of doing the goat drill and then running over and doing one more 10-meter sprint, I just had to do the goat drill. And the goat drill doesn't have to be this complex. It can be a simple one, but just do the goat drill with that on, and it turned everybody on. So they RPR for 3 minutes. They do this 2 reps right here. It's 25 seconds. And then they go sprints. And again, like I mentioned in the book, I bargained with the kids. I was like, hey, you want to do a 15-minute dynamic warm up or 3 minutes RPR and we'll go. And they were like, I'm out. Let's do the RPR, coach, we're out. So anyway, but that's how I pair it. And it can be done anyway. I think I'd go RPR, go drill. No, I'd probably do RPR, water bag run, and then go drill. If you wanted to isolate things, yes.
And FYI, if you do the goat drill at Lifetime, like I have been lately, you get a lot of interesting looks.
Yeah. And especially with your older clients, right? If they can just do it walking. So, how about a quick story on the goat drill? I have a friend, he's a professional golfer that I train, and he does goat drill. And he had some pretty crazy results over the last year with the goat drill and everything that we do in the system. And he actually does the workouts in the book. So we're doing ISOs in the off season and power, but then during the season, he'll do the speed workouts in the book that we do. So all those exercises, he has a complete whole, but he took his daughter and she let her pick a game with the remote, or a game that she could play with the remote and with the wireless one. And as she was doing the game, she started doing the goat drill, and she actually doubled her score 15 minutes later after doing the goat drill, while she was doing the goat drill, than she ever got on her high. She doubled her score. And he sent me this and I got the video of her doing the game while she's doing a goat drill. So like I told him, like, parents, hey, just have your kids play video games and do the goat drill. If they're going to play video games, make them do 10 minutes of the goat drill, especially with that, like, wireless remote. What are the key thing? What are they called? The remote? I don't know what do the kids call the things they're hitting while they're playing the game? I don't know.
The game console? I don't know, little
whatever. Whatever. Yeah, the controller. Yeah, the wireless controller. Right? Yeah. So yeah, like it was crazy. He's like, yeah, she'd been playing with her brothers trying to get better scores. She started the goat drill, and while she was doing the goat drill the first time, her score doubled and she got her high. That's pretty interesting. Like, that's the definitive result. And then a quick one, I had another friend whose daughter just exploded around 8, 9 years old, became so clumsy compared to what she was. She's growing so fast. Goat drill took care of that. I've had that happen multiple times.
Yeah. And that makes sense, right? You're just, a lot of times during those growth spurts, they're just trying to integrate all their senses, and their proprioception is just all skewed from where they're at.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So the goat drill, yeah, it's just something, it's just the brain drill, right?
Yeah. So we had a question from Trevor about, does this work for all pain? My bias was just, I view pain as like the end of the spectrum in terms of it's closer to poor performance. I would still have them do the same things, just try to stay below whatever threshold it is that they have pain. So you may have to modify a bunch of stuff because you don't want to keep creating pain the whole time they're doing a drill. But in my experience, usually you can change the velocity or change the speed or make it simple. And it seems to work for that. Like, I don't really do a lot of completely different things for people that have pain and are not. If they have pain, a lot of it is just more specific stuff, but it's the same principles. I don't know what your experience with that is, Cal.
Yeah, if it's something they can manage, when I say manage, if they can like get a good breath and control their breathing, and I find that we can, and then if they can actually move fairly well. But again, like if they're not moving well, then they're creating a compensation pattern. And Mike and I have seen those things, compensation patterns, have drove Mike and I crazy over. Right?
Oh God.
Right? Like, and I started trying to track it. And Mike's going to say, well, you're an idiot because it's never going to be the same. But it took me 8 months to figure out, and there's no sequence for anybody here. The only pattern I've ever seen of compensation patterns that I can almost guarantee you it's going to happen is if I see the parent of my athletes and I see the dad and he's compensating. And I'm like, okay, now I know why that kid compensates. But like the same injury, other people compensate differently. But I'm guaranteeing you the dad and the son, or the mom and the son, or the daughter and the dad will compensate. Someone in that family will probably compensate the same way. And maybe not all the time, but.
Yeah. So to Trevor's question, will this help reset the pain signal? And my bias, yes. So I think of it as just, while I'm not treating people's pain, I'm just trying to get them to move better. And pretty much every time they move better, their pain goes down. So whatever I can do to get them to move better, might be goat drill. I do a lot of RPR, I do hands-on stuff, visual vestibular testing, that type of thing. Anything that results with them moving better, more range of motion, better muscle testing, that type of thing. In virtually every case, their pain goes down. So, and then usually with that, when they're moving, it's easy to see the thing that's moving too much, but then you're going to look for the thing that's not moving enough. So if an athlete's walking and their right arm is just flying across them in front of you, that's easy to see, but that may not be the thing to target. So I'd be looking at their left hip lack of extension, and that's probably where I would start in terms of a framework of trying to look at compensation. Any thoughts on that, Cal?
Yeah, there's certain things that happen, but or like seem to be a pattern. And like it would be associated with, I feel like if it's a set thing, it's most likely associated with slings, right?
Yeah, and those correspond to a sling. Yep.
Yeah. The one you're just talking about, obviously.
Yep.
But do we know like what? It's just crazy what that sling, and then there's variations that come off that sling and maybe of problems, but I don't know why it happens. It doesn't. There's nobody that said this. It's just it's a crapshoot sometimes, which makes this thing whole. It just makes this fun.
Yeah. And if you even know which sling you're looking at, you don't know what part of that sling may be the issue. So I'll usually just start at an extremity and just work my way up and through. And I've seen everything from all the way up into left jaw was affecting their right ankle, and their left big thumb was affecting their right big toe, and all sorts of stuff. So they're not necessarily all proximal to each other either.
No, but yeah, that's frustrating. But anyway, it keeps me interested. So
Yeah. Let's see. So we'll go with the question here. Let's see. John, what is Cal's starting point with a new athlete joining the program mid-season who has no previous experience of his methods? Assuming that the athlete has no injuries, what would be the checklist and first steps to start?
in season's tough because then they just they get brought in.
It gives you thoughts into whatever you're doing.
Yeah, right. All season. Well, quick on the off season, we do a bunch of testing so then we can get the kid to buy in and understand, like, hey, look at how much better you got, right? Like from in this last month, or it's just in 3 weeks when we retest them. In season, you know what? Like, I like just in the program because then I'm really watching every move they make to figure some things out. And then just because I know how, and I've worked in RPR years, I'll watch an exercise and I know what muscle might be off. So let's say I watch the right leg and I know that they're the slings that we just talked about, the lateral slings off. So I'll put the kid on a table and then I'll test the lateral sling. I'm like, oh yeah, this looked like you were off. And he's like, I'm weak there. And I show him the other side is strong. So then now I got some buy-in. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to fix it real quick. So I fix it. I re-show them. They test it. They're like, what'd you just do? And so like I get a lot of buy-in on that with RPR. And it's nobody's fault. It's not like the program he came from was bad. Cause like my kids might be all RPR'd today, right now, and they go out and play a whole scrimmage, they come off and they're not going to be on. It's just, they took hits, they took back, right? So just because somebody comes in my program, I assume nothing. Look, the crazy thing about trainers and strength coaches is every time a strength coach goes into a new school, he says, oh, the last program was horrible, right? Well, I want, after my kids play the postseason where we don't train as much the last 2-3 weeks, 2 weeks off, and they come back, they're horrible. I'm like, who trained these kids? Right. But like, we just got to be aware that like people, if they haven't trained at the end of the season, my kids are bad too. They got so many things wrong with them that it just appeared. Yeah. What are you going to do? And plus we started training, so they're sore, so things shut off. You know what I mean? So it frustrates me when I hear people going, oh man, this is like this program, or you were in a bad program. Like, not really. You weren't really in a bad program. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And do you think that's also because of the accumulated stress, and they've got tests and they've got an outside life and they've got accumulation of how many reps and hits over the course of the season and everything else that goes into it?
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes you just limp it into the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, hockey's a contact sport, right? So hockey's different, a lot of skill, a lot of things going on there. But anyway, so yeah, I guess with the in-season part, I think I bring them in, I watch, so I assess them. If you do testing, I don't know if I would, but it might, because they're not going to be as good as they are at the end of the next summer. So it might be a chance for you to get some more buy-ins.
Cool. Who's next? You can raise your hand or put a comment or just start talking.
I have a question about the classic triphasic loading chart that you have in the books. Ahead. I'm coming in new at book 2 here. So powerlifter, I primarily work with powerlifters. So I got 2 questions based on the chart. So what kind of like volumes and sets do you recommend for applying those percentages to? And then in block 3, when you're going between strength, power, and speed, is that just primarily the difference in foot position and width that you're expressing that in?
What are your thoughts on that, Cal?
Mike, on the classic triphasic model, what I guess what I'm not drawing that in my head right now. What with the graph? Which one
So
was
it's on
that?
page 77 of the book where it's
Yeah.
so the eccentric focus for 2 weeks, 85, 90, and 80%. 2 weeks the isometrics, and then the 2 weeks of the concentric strength, power, and speed.
Indoor. Yep.
What kind of sets and volumes do you recommend for expressing that in?
On the third block, on like after you go through the isos and it's the strength, power, speed.
Yes.
Okay. So
It's more than just 1 rep total for these. Like, what do you recommend for that?
So a good rule of thumb, if you're trying to develop my quality, and look, I looked at this for numerous, I did tendos for a decade watching, and no matter what load I was at, I realized quickly, and I'm talking no load, plyometric jumps, accelerated from the ceiling, that if I did more than 3 reps, no matter what, the speed started to deteriorate. And that's what I found. And then, so let's say we're below 80 or below. After 3 reps, the speed deteriorated. So then I just stacked on more sets if I needed to get more repetitions, right? So to keep so look, when I feel that if it's a motor skill and it's not conditioning and everything else is a skill, so whether it's power, speed, strength, it's all skill. I will not do more than triples in most cases, unless it's a super high speed thing and I can get like 12 reps and 80 in 5 seconds. But really, then you're looking at time, right? So is it the triples with a back squat, or is it a squat jump? I still found, even if it's a light loaded squat jump or unloaded, 3 reps was your limit with big body movements. Now the small stuff, they don't seem to slow down. So like, let's say it's an oscillatory shoulder, you can go 5-7 seconds. They don't seem to slow down with bands, but the rule of thumb is 3 reps or less. So if you're above 80 though, I like doubles for the 85%, and then 90, I liked singles. So with my throwers, and we got really strong, we're talking like no gear, maybe some belts. We would, at 90%, we always did singles or clusters of singles. So a triple, rest 20, do it, or I'm sorry, a single, rest 20, do a single, and maybe one more. And then I would just rest, and we'd do that. So the guidelines on repetitions are that triple is my limit when I'm doing really high quality stuff. Even in speed, like you might be able to squeeze 4 out, but never was the 5th one better than any of the other ones. And unless they're brand new at the skill, then what happens is maybe they're just learning the skill better. But in most of my advanced athletes, triples were best. And then even training younger athletes, triples were always best. And I just stack more triples or more sets on and reduce the rest because they're not working as hard. So you can actually get a lot of work in. So, or maybe it's even a cluster. So you do a double or it's triple cluster, do a rep of 3, rest 30 seconds, do another rep of 3. And I found that seemed to be pretty effective. So that's where I liked cluster training. And I got that from the German book. Actually, I should be able to search it. It was one that I think Charles Baldwin really liked this book because, I mean, it seemed like that a lot of stuff came out of that book. It was, I call it the East German Bible. I layered it to East German Bible by, let me just, 1 second. This is actually a good book if you can find it.
Yeah, I found a lot of Poliquin stuff was from a lot of the Russian Eastern Bloc stuff early on before people even heard of it.
Yeah. So it's fitness and strength for all sports. Fitness. I'll write this up. Styrian. Oh, it's Hartman and Tuneman. Let me search that for everybody because this is like the first book about cluster training. So I'm going to search it real quick so you can. I would recommend this book if you really want to get to the foundations and roots of some of this stuff. Okay. So then let's go back to after I go through the eccentric and isos. What I do is I do my testing with the Pro Performance Optimizer. I run a 20-yard dash, which then tells me whether they need strength, speed, or power. So then would I recommend that for powerlifting? Probably not. Right? I'm still going to have to go above 80, right? Or doing a mix. Maybe it's high one day and low, right? Maybe more of a conjugate model. But the point is that you really then would, so triphasic then, let's say you're a powerlifter. You don't want to do triphasic. Most powerlifters have gained success when I corresponded with them or they told me what happened, and some have set some more records. I told him to do 12 weeks out, do your triphasic. Whatever your peaking is, you want to do triphasic 6 weeks before that. So let's say you're planning for a meet. You peak. Here's when I start peaking to get to be ready 6 weeks later for meet day. You want to do triphasic 6 weeks before that. Start it so you get through your eccentric isos. Get through a heavy cycle, and then whatever your peaking method is. Or you could shorten that 6 weeks out. The 6 weeks before your meet competition cycle, you could do eccentric and isos and then do your competition peaking method, whatever that may be. And people get pretty profound results there.
Great. So that answers my question, especially for that speed aspect. Just the one small secondary question to that is powerlifters, is it okay to add a little bit more, like to grind through some reps? Does you see that commonly in competition?
In my opinion, I would do it at the end of the week, right? Because if I grind through reps early, I found that I just didn't get the training for my athletes. And again, they're all speed based, but yet even with my throwers who are strength based, we're talking I had a 6'3", 44-inch vertical, 300 kilo, 660 back squatter raw, 60 plus foot shot putter, and 65 plus. And you're going, like, I was like, so what I'm saying is, like, they got super strong, but if I grind it a little bit, I saved at the end of the week, but we're tired. And it really goes with the undulated model in first Triphasic, right? And what pushed me to that model, it was just an experiment, was because, again, it goes back to beer and wing night on Thursdays, right? So I'm training my baseball team, and I had my high volume on Mondays, and things were going okay, but they weren't great. My high volume grinds and sets out on Monday. And then I realized, like, I'm just going to crush these guys because they go to beer and wing night. They're hungover when they come in on Friday. We're just going to do all the volume. Well, everything got a little bit better then. So I just shifted everything, right? So again, it wasn't scientific how I found it out. It was beer and wing night that caused me to shift the grinding the sets on Friday at the end of the week to be better. But it made more sense though, because everything in the beginning or earlier in the week was higher quality. And look, if you're trying to get better, stronger, or speed, you have to do high quality. And there's time to grind, but it's at the end of the week, in my opinion. Mike, I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
Yeah, what I've noticed is a handful of powerlifters I worked with. In general, I would agree just because of the higher amounts of fatigue. There's a handful of lifters I worked with where they can grind through reps all the time and they just show up 48 hours later, they're fine. I would say those are the exception. Most of the time, like you were saying, Cal, I find that the quality of reps they can do after that just tanks. So I'm usually going to push that till later in the week. They've got probably Saturday and Sunday off, or it's just easy work on the weekend. And then Monday, they're probably pretty good to go again. Just look at how much volume it's costing me to get specific. And if I lose a lot of practice, I'm going to move that to a place where they have the most rest so that it doesn't decrease the quality of volume we can do.
And look, I'm talking from drug-free, drug-tested athletes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're on, and I love heavy powerlifting, like if the guy's doing drugs, I don't care. I want to see him squat 1,000 pounds. That's great. You know what I mean? So I'm not judging at all, but you just got to realize, like, I'm just telling you this from the drug-free athletes. Now, I'm not going to tell you they're not freaks. So they're freaks. Yeah. I mean, some of them are freaks.
Cool. Let's see. Debbie had a question. Can you give an example of an upper body high velocity potentiation clusters for swimmers? Or would you not use this method for upper body?
No, I would. Really, it'd be like bench throws. And then the hard part is always the back, right? So I think I have I don't even know what we got it in my program every day, but it's by banded rows, right? So when I say that, it's a super high velocity banded rows. So you could do like bench throws, you could do the banded rows, you could do med ball toss. I still like the overhead because it actually, or even the side lateral in my peaking, in my speed program in the book, a lot of that is potentiation. And when I say that, like it's potentiation, but it also is such a high quality training system to teach the nervous system to relax. And the TMG showed us that. We actually just pulled out the TMG. We're going to do a project with it, Mike. Yeah, it's always fun to see, the interns are learning, they go do an exercise, they come back and they analyze the muscle and see what it does, right? So it's really fun. Just to get them excited about it, it's pretty awesome. So, and then David found the book. I actually pasted it too, but he found it. I didn't even look for it, pasted, but it's in the chat if you want that German book. But yeah, no. So again, I think it's about the reactiveness. And if it's something that's reactive, in my opinion, it's going to cause potentiation effect.
Yeah. I think you had like a one arm pull down variation with that too, as one of the versions.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. 100%.
Cool. The next one from Mike. I work with a lot of cross country runners. What modifications would you make for the 5K and 8K running population? These are high school and college athletes. Any thoughts?
Well, where we've had success is really like I would say the spring ankle is one, right? I think some crazy stuff there because just look, if their ankle has no weaknesses, then the stretch reflex is going to take place more effectively so that they return the load. So when I say that, years ago, I wish I kept it. I saw a study of a 5K runners of elite world class, and the people that won the race were world class compared to the people that just fell off at the end. They realized that at 3,000 meters, what separated everybody was that the hip was undulating when they run. The slower people undulated when they ran. So the problem with the undulation is if you run and your hip goes down too far, it's telling me that when the foot struck the ground, it didn't stretch anything.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't get a free return of ligament energy. Because the people that were stiff when they hit the ground, their tendons were stretched and they got a free return of energy, where the people that collapsed at 3,000 meters, they actually had to use more muscular energy at the end to push to get, so they were less economical in regards to their gait cycle. So then if I'm doing cross country, I would not do deep squats. I know people do eccentric loading, isometric loading in like a quarter squat position, because that's where they're going to load. No, I definitely would like do the prime times, because I've gotten a ton of feedback on that, because the prime times are very important. I think, and they're in the book, right? And along with prime times and the URI, it's pretty crazy what what you get out of those. I'm not kidding you. It's pretty crazy. So those would be some things. Mike, anything else you think?
Yeah, I just think that the biggest thing that I see in that population is training through poor movement patterns again, because there's so much distance only based. So I only work with a handful of endurance athletes. That's not the primary population I work with. If I get a chance to work with them in person, all we do is just really basic sprint technique stuff, not to the level probably Cal or Corfus do by any means, but just basic stuff. And then after that, just trying to teach them that once your mechanics break down, like just stop. Like I'd rather have them walk at that point, track the distance, track your heart rate. And then if you can fix yourself with RPR and do a little bit more running, great. Can't walk home or whatever. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. There's logistics to that. And then the other part is that RPR in the sprint position. So like we teach in level 2, so specific positional RPR can make a huge difference. So for athletes that have hit a plateau but tend to be breaking down at a certain point, I'll just put them in that split stance or wherever the position they were in, just have them do the activations in that position. And that seems to make a huge difference too.
Yeah, I think a couple things too. I'll post this. I have that hypertrophy control method. So if you're going the weight room or gaining weight, it's a really quick formula where you do cold tubs after you go through the weight room. And then I add high dose fish oil. You can read the article. I put it there. It's just a combination. I actually had some athletes do this summer. They didn't want to put any more weight. We got them a lot more powerful, but ultimately they were able to not gain weight with that method there. So anyway, just one thing. And then I think that triphasic, like one thing I wanted to mention too, like with pain, and we talked about before, the triphasic or the what I call a triple stack sniff, I believe it was. Yeah.
No, they get parasympathetic.
Yeah. So really, the neurobalance sync stack, I'll paste something about it there. But yeah, I think if their breathing they can work on their breathing, maybe not when they're running, but intervals and stuff. And especially with RPR. But what we're finding now is that if an athlete's got some pain, if they touch it and they cause a little bit of pain and they do that neurobalance sync stack where it's a triple sniff, they rattle their teeth a little bit, they breathe through their teeth, will be home. And then they widen their vision while they hold on to the pain. It actually is helping them reduce that pain. And it's really the brain going, hey, the pain's okay. I can calm myself down. It's just really letting go. So I put that in the chat if you want to click on that link. So.
Yeah. And I'll see that in clients if their HRV baselines are really horrible and they have a lot of pain. My first thought is let's try to increase your HRV baseline over time, because it may not be the source of their pain, but like you said, if you can get them to be more parasympathetic, you take that gain knob on the pain and definitely turn it down.
Yeah.
Cool. Who's got another question here? We got a few minutes left.
Trevor here. I figured out my microphone. So,
Oh, yeah.
so just like, I just want to call out some of the things that you said because they're so cool. And I know there's another couple of swim coaches in here, like the whole thing about they're no longer running correctly. They should stop.
Yeah.
And reset. Like I do that in swimming all the time with my
Totally.
And they're like, no, let's crank through the yardage. And I'm like,
No,
you guys, you don't get it. So I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a couple other swim coaches in here. Just like
Well,
I do that with my swimming. That's not just something that we should keep to track and field or strength and conditioning, right?
Right.
You're not
And
going
you
to
can't. Yeah, my thought is you can't have days you push through, and those are established days. But a majority are not. I don't think you can, right? You'll get better results, in my opinion, right? Yes.
100.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all.
Yeah, okay.
That's all. I just wanted to make sure that's like that's a principle of anatomy and physiology. Like if you do 1,000 squats in a row, what's your form going to be like at the end? Right. So we get away from that in swimming. And like I said, I know there are some other swim coaches in here asking about swimming. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah. And I think days where quality wins a majority of the time, right? You got to do things fast, but there's times you have to increase capacity. There's no doubt about that. So.
Yeah. I like the use stress, distress model. So use stress, EU stress. Like Cal was saying, most of the time it's going to be high quality work. If your form starts breaking down, you're going to stop before that. Your goal is to be able to come back the next day and do it again and again. But you are going to have distress days, which are usually competition, your test days where your mechanics are probably going to break down a little bit, but the goal is to see where your performance is. But usually I see that model is flipped. Like most people are doing, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it, too much distress work. And that's costing them performance long term. But yeah, so both are useful. It's just how do you determine what to do with that? Like with most of my clients, it's 80-90+% is use stress. The higher level they get to, we might do more simulation distress type work, but most of the time it's going to be more EU stress. Cool. Anyone? Last question from anyone? Anybody?
Like I pasted a couple things in there we talked about, like articles that were
things that I'll make sure to grab them.
Yeah, grab them and then so everybody can see those and just some possibilities. But no, appreciate it.
Cool. All right. Well,
All right.
thank you all for
That was great.
showing up.
That was great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll do one of these when we're drinking, like on a Friday night, maybe, or something. That'll be fun.
Go.
Wait,
So you're gonna bring
yeah.
dark beer?
Yeah, links of beers. It'll be great. It can go south. I had one go south. I try not to tell people about the podcast, but that was the intent. We all started drinking and we did it. Yeah. It's actually on Mike and Booker, that one. There was a second one on there. We had a blast. I just was like, can't believe I said some of that. So anyway, all right. Thank you for everyone for being here. It was great. It's always great to do these. These are awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast or this call. Really appreciate it. Big thanks to Coach Cal Dietz for all the wonderful information he was able to share. Obviously, we're biased since we are the authors of the Triphasic Training 2 book, 14 all new methods, which is out now. It is all new stuff from the Triphasic Training 1 book. And you do not necessarily have to have the Triphasic Training 1 book. It is helpful if you do have it, though. We do a very short review of the Triphasic Training principle, so you can get right into it with the second book. You do not necessarily need to have the first one, although it is very beneficial. I'll put a link to the book here. A huge thanks to everyone who has bought it, all the wonderful reviews we've had. I think right now we're closing in on 120 reviews on Amazon, which has been amazing. So huge thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Big thanks to Cal for all the great info here. Big thanks to our sponsors, LMNT. Check them out below if you're looking for electrolytes. Tecton ketone esters if you're looking for ketones to a little bit more to get you through the end of the day or your training or your endurance, cardio, aerobic training sessions. They're awesome for that. I've been able to use them a lot over the past couple of years, and it's been great. Use code Dr. Mike to save some money. Also, we've got a newsletter, both myself, you can hop onto that, and we've got a newsletter for the Triphasic Training 2. So if you go to Triphasic2.com, you'll be able to purchase the book there, and you can also hop onto the newsletter completely free for lots more great information there. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. As always, really appreciate it. Got some great interviews coming up here, so stay tuned for that. If you could do us a favor, leave us a like, subscribe, download, reviews. Like we said, even if you just say a few words, that'd be great. Whatever stars you feel is appropriate. All that stuff is a huge benefit to us to allow us to keep getting amazing guests. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Talk to all of you next week.
Did you see that? Yes, the frog is certainly taking a beating on this show. Yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for him. We take a beating every show.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.